Welcome to Spoiler Peace Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Evan Crean. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living, and my pronouns are he, him.
My name is Megan Kearns. My pronouns are she, her. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I'm a co-host of the Slashers podcast. I too am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and I'm a member of Gallica, the Society of LGBTQ Entertainment Critics.
And my name is Dave Riedel. My pronouns are he, him. I write for the Chicago Reader, and I am also a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
Heck yeah, you are.
Yes, I am. Indeed. Of course. Yes.
Indubitably.
Indubitably. That's right.
Yeah. Well, on this week's show, we've got movies to talk about. Before we mention the two movies we're going to be talking about in the show, we'll mention that over on our Patreon this week, every week we do exclusive audio for our patrons. We are talking about the 1954 film Godzilla, in honor of it being its 70th anniversary this year. And we had a great conversation about the movie. And yeah, if you're a patron, check that out. If you're not, please consider joining for just $5 a month. You get access to weekly exclusive audio where we talk about older films. So high likelihood you've seen the movies we're talking about. And you also get the vote in polls. And we do a poll every month, usually some type of month-themed topic, but not always. Sometimes it's just rando items that we want to throw in a poll together. And so, yeah, that's a lot of fun. Anyway, on this week's show, we're talking about two movies. We're talking about American Dreamer, and we're talking about Damsel. And we're going to start with American Dreamer, which I have not seen, but Megan and Dave have.
Yes.
So American Dreamer is directed by Paul Decter and is written by Theodore Melfi and Christopher Wenner. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And stars Peter Dinklage and Shirley MacLaine, also Danny Pudi, Matt Dillon, Danny Glover. I think those are all the major players, and I'll give you the one sentence, well, multiple sentence IMDb, but they're short sentences. Phil's a dreamer, period. Most dreams don't come true, period. Phil hates that, period. But that's not going to stop Phil from dreaming, period. Yeah, that's not very much of a plot summary, but
That's horrible.
if I remember correctly from the press emails, Peter Dinklage is kind of like a down on his luck professor, right?
Yes.
He's like
Yes.
he's always wanted to own a house, and somehow he meets Shirley MacLaine, who's this rich woman who offers to give him her house or something, but he's got to jump through a lot of hoops to get it. What happens in this movie?
Basically, it's you can either buy this house for like $20 million or however much. It's not 20 million, but it's a lot of money. Or you pay $250,000 and you live in the house with me until I die. And so he ends up living.
And then you inherit it.
Yes. And then he lives in this like guest house, kind of on the back of the house. But his broker, who is played by Matt Dillon, talks to her and he's like, oh yeah, she doesn't have any kids and she's close to death, like it'll be fine, it'll be soon. And come to find out that's not entirely true. So yeah, there's a lot of hiccups along the way.
Yeah.
IMDb says this is a comedy. Is this in fact a comedy?
I mean, it's
Yes.
not a fucking funny comedy.
I thought it had its moments, but
Oh,
Ooh.
mostly because of Peter Dinklage, who proves to be quite a fine actor even when the material is middling.
Okay. Well, Dave, why don't you tell us what you think first, and then Megan can make the counterpoint.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it made me laugh. I mean, I think unfortunately, all of that is true, what you said as far as the press notes, etc. But this movie suffers from Three's Company syndrome. A lot of things could be explained away with one very short conversation instead of 24 minutes of hijinks,
Damn those hijinks.
I know.
Don't forget the slapstick.
Yeah, the slapstick. And there is slapstick in this because a lot of it, I mean, Peter Dinklage takes so many hits to the head.
Oh, that's what I
in this
meant. I
movie.
meant the slapstick in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right, there is slapstick in Three's Company as
Three's
well.
Company, yeah, quite a bit. Yeah, the poster,
You're
by the way,
right.
for this movie has Peter Dinklage with like a black eye, a cut on his forehead with like duct tape on it. So he'll
That's exactly what happened. He's taking a shower and there's a problem with the plumbing and he gets scalded and he jumps out of the shower and hits his head on the toilet and falls over. And so he, for some reason, he duct tapes it instead. He doesn't have a Band-Aid, I guess. And everybody points out to him like, you look like a fucking idiot with that. So, I mean, I thought he was good. I thought it was just fun to see Shirley MacLaine, and her character's kind of a kook, because of course that makes sense. And she does have one, throwaway line about, how many lives have you lived, Paul, his character's, or Paul? Is that his name? Phil. Thank you.
You were close.
close enough.
Paul, Phil, both
yes,
begin with P, but one
yeah.
has an F sound. Yeah, I know.
But we have to have a nod to Shirley MacLaine's love of past lives.
We do. It can't just be defending her life.
No.
So, and there's a whole subplot with, he's trying to get a parking pass at this university, and Danny Pudi is the dean the dean of the department or the dean of the college?
I don't know. I couldn't figure it out if he was the dean of the department or the college.
Too young to be the dean of
Right?
the college, I would think.
I thought that too. I got kind of
what is this, Greendale?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, what's the movie where Jeremy Piven's the dean? Old School. It's like, he was like 32 when they made that. He can't be the fucking dean. Jesus.
Yeah, maybe of the department, because he was an economics professor too. So
right.
Peter Dinklage's character. So
I mean, I think one of the things that worked for this for me is that it's short and that it's pretty light on its feet. Unfortunately, like I said, there's the Three's Company thing, and then there's also just a lot of stuff that's kind of sketched out but not explained. Like the whole idea of Phil being a dreamer is really not all that central to the story.
no.
So it's kind of, there's a few times, he's got this fantasy that he's married to like a model and that she has a twin sister who's like, I guess he's also sleeping with. But
No, those are his ex-wives.
Oh, those are his two ex-wives?
Yes.
For
that
real?
He imagined. Yes.
Oh.
Isn't that the
in his
weirdest
fantasy?
thing? Yes. Because I thought the exact same thing. I'm like, who the fuck are these model women that he's like imagining? But no, I realized by the end they're his ex-wives who are telling him to go to therapy. And he's like, oh, I'm going to miss you. Because he has these weird imaginary conversations with them.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure those are his ex-wives.
Yeah. Well, and I guess it follows because the two women that he does sleep with in this movie are attractive women.
Yes.
So, one, of course, is a student. It turns out she's a grad student, but it's still frowned upon. It's frowned upon, as Ross would say.
It's not illegal. It's just frowned upon.
Frowned upon.
Yeah, because don't worry, she's a grad student and she's 30, so it's fine. She says that in the movie.
Yeah. It's like, we're both consenting adults, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I can't imagine in what universe somebody who's thinking would go ahead and sleep with a grad student, but okay. That happens, and of course, it's kind of a shitty plot development. It's not like he just kind of forgets about her, and that pisses her off, and so he does something really outrageous in class because he thinks that Shirley MacLaine has children who have claims to the house and that he's going to get kicked out or there's going to be some lawsuits, and one of them is a probate lawyer, so she specializes in this shit. And Claire, like I said, he just kind of forgets about her, and then he does this thing in class where he shows himself getting, assaulted by the man, and she reports him. She takes a video of it and shows it to Danny Pudi, the dean, and that's a whole thing. But it just kind of becomes a footnote, even though the plot line of him losing his job because of that is a larger thing, but the actual act itself is just like glossed over. So there's a lot of tonality / pacing problems with this, and a lot of like just gaps in the story that you kind of have to fill in on your own. But I did like the relationship that he ultimately ends up having with Shirley MacLaine. Like each time she falls down in the house, he's genuinely concerned, and he rescues her once, and then the second time, or maybe it's the third time, I don't remember. She doesn't survive, and he had told her previously, "You're like a cat, you always come back," except she doesn't come back. And of course, he has an affair with one of her kids, who it turns out is not her kid. It turns out her kids are all, she had a camp that she ran, and they're all Astrid's kids. And this is what I mean when I say one conversation could have taken care of this all. So, I'm glad this movie made me laugh a lot, because otherwise it's a 2-star movie and now it's a 2.5.
Ooh, got a whole half star for making you laugh.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where it's like you can sort of see what this was maybe wanted to be, and it just didn't get there. And it's also just like, story gaps really piss me off. Especially like, this is a pretty straightforward narrative, so it shouldn't be that difficult, Especially all of these people. The fucking guy who wrote this, Theodore Melfi, wrote and directed Hidden Figures, for Christ's sake. So, it's not like he's a dumbass. So, I don't know. Megan, how about you? I think that you probably didn't like it.
I fucking hated this.
You hated it.
Hated it. Hated it. I hated it. And I'm sorry, Dave, because I know you enjoyed it. And I'm glad you did. I'm glad one of us did. I
Evan's chortling.
So
I know you mean that legitimately, but sometimes it always feels like there's like some backhanded.
No, I mean it
I'm
legitimately.
glad you enjoyed it, Dave.
No, I mean it legitimately.
I know
there's
you do.
No snark, no shade. I'm dead serious, because I wish I had, because this was fucking torturous for me. 11 minutes in, I clocked it, because I was like, we have to be like, far in. No, it was 11 minutes in, and I was like, oh, this does not bode well. I was bored. I didn't care. We had a massive exposition dump from
oh my God,
Peter
that was
Dinklage's,
amazing.
Right? His bartender friend. It was absurd. You see him ogling women repeatedly. And that's when I thought he was having fantasies of hot women married to him. And no, they were just his ex-wives, apparently. But yeah, and I'm like, this guy is cranky and cantankerous, and he's cynical and jaded. So I'm like, okay, this movie is not boding well for me, but maybe it'll get better. And I love Peter Dinklage, and I like Shirley MacLaine a lot too. And I think they both deserve a much better movie, because I did not believe their friendship for 1 second. I didn't. By the time she dies and he's really upset, like really legitimately, genuinely upset, I was like, oh, I wish I'd gotten the relationship that had unfolded that made me believe his really genuine reaction. And I felt cheated out of it. And yeah, I did not find any of this funny. I found the dialogue painful. Like, I just...
Well, if you're making reference to that exposition dump, oh my God, I know exactly what you're...
Yeah, that was one example.
I remember watching that and just going like, is this... I was really sitting there kind of outside myself. Like, is this happening in a movie with this cast?
That's what I mean. Like, it's just absurd. And yeah, I didn't find it funny. I didn't find the slapstick funny. And to be fair, I'm not always the biggest fan of slapstick, but when it's done right, I definitely at least appreciate it. And not here. By the time Phil has his kind of change of heart, I didn't care. I didn't care that he lost his job, and it made sense that he should, or not to lose his job, but he got suspended. And it made sense because he does a cartoon of somebody bending over and someone fucking that person because he's so pissed off that he might lose this house. And he keeps talking about how he's put his all into this house. And this is all true and everything. But at the same time, I feel like this movie also has kind of a weird basis, or not premise, but kind of, because so they keep talking about how he lives in Boston, and you see him looking at Boston real estate. And a lot of the houses that he's looking at, I'm looking at that, I'm like, I'm sorry, that would be way more expensive in Boston than even what they're showing.
Mhm.
And he teaches in Brockton, and he teaches at, quote, Brockton University, which is not a real college, and there is no
No.
university in Brockton. The only college in Brockton is Massasoit Community College. And I would have found it a lot more interesting if it was a community college professor. And it also would have been more interesting if in Brockton we actually saw, some Black people or some people of color, because Brockton is not just white people, as this movie would lead you to believe. And so there are so many issues. So I'm thinking about this. I'm like, well, this isn't shot in Boston. It's not. It was shot in, I think, Vancouver, somewhere in Canada.
Right. It's shot in Vancouver.
Because the student who, the woman who plays the student is from Letterkenny. And she's actually quite good on Letterkenny, and I liked her in this. She's probably the only thing I liked in this movie. But I kept thinking about all the other kind of things, like, why isn't this shot in Massachusetts? Why don't we have a community college professor? Why aren't we talking about race?
Yeah.
Why aren't we talking about, how horrible the housing market is? Like, there's all these possibilities for a really great story and things to really dig deep into. But instead, all we get is this one dude who is sleeping with women who are shocked at his sexual prowess and how big his dick is, which, I shit you not, is a conversation in this movie. And instead we get that instead of actual, for me, things that would have been interesting to delve into. So for me, this was an epic fail, and I hated it.
Okay. Fair enough. I think one of the reasons that I'm giving this a pass at all is the first sex scene where he's sleeping with the graduate student. I noticed that there's blood on the pillow from his wound from where he hit his head and passed out.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember thinking to myself, oh, there's an actual detail. Huh.
Some continuity.
Yeah, things like that, they go a long way with me, because that means that there are a series of decisions that go into that shows that there is some thought in this. Unfortunately, it doesn't manifest itself in other aspects. And the big one that I just keep coming back to is the Three's Company dilemma, which I just fucking can't stand that shit. There are so many movies that fall back on that, and it's the laziest fucking thing, and it's lazy here too.
Yep.
But like I said, Peter Dinklage goes a long way with me. I've just always liked him. One of my favorite movies is The Station Agent, which I think you both know, but maybe you didn't know that. So yeah, it's I didn't even think about the Brockton thing, honestly, because the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, well, this is Vancouver.
Yeah.
I had no idea this had any connection to this area.
Well, part of the
Brockton's
reason,
like a town over from me.
Yeah, part of the reason I even mention it is because on Wikipedia it says he's a Harvard professor, and I'm like, well, that's not true. He's not.
Yeah.
He went to Harvard. He's a Harvard graduate.
Right.
But anyway, yeah. But again, these are the things these are the nitpicky things I think about when I despise a movie.
Well, when you're not liking the movie.
No, and it's unfortunate because you're right, Dave. Peter Dinklage is great. He's an excellent actor, and he's fine here. I don't think he is the problem. I think it's, for me, it's the writing. I think it's the direction, it's the writing, it's some of the supporting performances, but yeah, he's good.
Yeah, I think for me, it's largely the writing, like you were saying. I think the direction is serviceable for what it is. I think that's kind. I don't really think there's any way that you could have whipped this into shape with the screenplay you have, unless you took another 6 weeks and rewrote it again.
Unless you just redid it, yeah.
I mean, it takes a long time to write a movie, and you fix one problem, then you have to go fix all the other problems that fix created.
It's like whack-a-mole. You're like, oh,
exactly.
Great.
It's exactly. I mean, it's like that with any story, right? So, and this just feels like they weren't quite. It just feels like tonally they didn't know what they were doing, and also that there are, like I said, just a lot of gaps in the story. Matt Dillon is this realtor, and he's supposed to be funny, which I don't really think it's Matt Dillon's fault. It's a shitty character, a shitty person and a shitty character. But they have this whole history that they kind of allude to, and it's like, well, why don't we just I don't know. You see Phil at one open house that Matt Dillon has, and he's just invited Phil to it to basically, I think, make him feel shitty. But it's like, what is the germ of this? You know, what I not that I really need to know, but it just sort of seems like Matt Dillon's there for comic relief, but the part's not really funny. It's just, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, that scene, it's so weird. Like that scene, I was like, yeah, is he just trying to stick it to him? Or because Peter Dinklage has this like ridiculous, apparently this really long list of, qualifications that he wants, things he wants, and he can't afford what he wants. It's very clear. So this is what Matt Dillon is showing him. Like it's kind of like a weird fucked up way of being like, well, this is what you want, but you can't even afford that. Like, I don't know. Any way you look at it, it doesn't make sense and it doesn't work. And Matt Dillon, I think, is miscast. I think he's awful in this. Just no.
Yeah,
I'm gonna stop talking because I'm just shitting on this movie all over the place. And
yeah, we can move on to the next.
No, I don't mean we can move on.
No, there's nothing. But there's nothing. I mean, there's really nothing else to say, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
I got that sense from you that you're like, okay, I've said what I needed to say.
Yeah, but you liked it, and so that's important.
I didn't like that at the end. Phil blackmails Danny Pudi with photos.
Was gross.
That was fucking weird.
Yeah,
yeah. Danny Glover Evans shows up as a private investigator because there's some whole thing. They're trying to figure out whether Shirley MacLaine actually has kids and whether there's going to be a big problem with like the will and things like that. And so Danny Glover can't tell the difference between the two women that Phil has slept with. So he tails the graduate student, and it turns out she's sleeping with Danny Pudi, the dean. And he accidentally takes pictures of that, and Phil uses those pictures to blackmail Danny Pudi to get his job back, and it's gross.
Yeah, that is gross.
I think I probably would have thought that was gross even when I was in my mid-20s. It's just kind of like,
I think you would have.
Ew, and you take this character who is a cantankerous prick, but that just sends him over the edge into like gross.
Yeah.
So.
And he was supposed to have, quote unquote, grown after his friendship with Shirley MacLaine, but yet he's still blackmailing and doing gross things. Like, fuck this guy.
Yeah. So there you go. I gave this movie more laughs than I think it deserved. Oh, well.
I know. I think we swapped roles, Dave.
That's okay. It happens sometimes.
You were generous this week. I was not.
Yeah. Well, them's the breaks, as they say.
Yeah. Damsel? Anyone?
Yeah. Yeah, let's move on to talk about Damsel, which I am interested to talk about with both of you and to hear what you thought of it. Okay, so Damsel is an action film on Netflix. It is directed by Juan Carlos Fresnadillo. It is written by Dan Mazzo. Hope that I'm pronouncing that correctly. This stars Millie Bobby Brown. It also has one of Dave's favorite actors, Ray Winstone, Angela Bassett, Robin Wright, Nick Robinson. I think those are the key players. And here's our one sentence IMDb summary. A dutiful damsel agrees to marry a handsome prince, only to find the royal family has recruited her as a sacrifice to repay an ancient debt.
Yeah.
Don't know about that. Yes, that's like vaguely the description of what happens, but so the film opens with a really obnoxious voiceover that doesn't even need to be there.
No.
This is, there's stories of chivalrous men, rescuing a damsel in distress, but this is not one of those movies. And I just my eyes were already rolling. Like, no.
I was right. I think I felt your eyes roll, and I was like, "What is this? Am I going to roll my eyes in the future?" And then I did.
Spoiler alert.
So we've got this king and his soldiers are in a dragon's lair, and they get roasted. Everyone except for the king is lit on fire by the dragon, and then he slumps to his knees and puts his sword down, and then bows down to the dragon, and we don't see anything. Then we cut to Millie Bobby Brown, who's a princess in a kingdom a down on its luck kingdom. It's ruled by Ray Winstone and Angela Bassett, and they're out of food and supplies, and so they're desperate. And this other kingdom comes to them and says, "Hey, we want our son to marry your daughter, and it'll be great, and we'll give you, supplies and things, and you won't starve." And they're like, "Awesome, cool, let's go there." And then, everyone there is like super rich. It's super nice. All seems too good to be true because it always is in this situation. Robin Wright plays the queen, and her son is Nick Robinson. I was like, where do I know this guy from? Like, oh yeah, Love, Simon. I forgot that was the same guy from Love, Simon.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh. Never would have guessed that.
Yep, I did not
Maybe it was
recognize
the wig.
him. Yeah, I did not recognize him at first. So he's gonna marry her, and then like after they have the wedding ceremony, well, first of all, Ray Winstone's kind of squirrely about what's going on there. Seems like he's got some backdoor conversations going on with the queen, and then Angela Bassett's picking up on some really weird vibes there too, and is like, I don't know about this, especially when Robin Wright gets her name wrong. She's like, "Oh, you're marrying Eloise," and Angela Bassett's like, "No, her name's Elodie. What the hell?" So they get married, and then there's this weird, fucking creepy ceremony up on a mountain with people wearing like cult masks. They're like gold cult masks, and there's
For no reason I can comprehend.
Very eyes wide shut.
Yeah, they cut her palm and his palm, and they put their hands together, and then they throw her off a cliff into the mountain to sacrifice her to the dragon, because you find out there's this existing deal with the dragon where the dragon leaves the people alone if they sacrifice 3 princesses, because this happened apparently centuries ago where the king agreed to give up 3 of his daughters to save the kingdom. And I don't really know at what interval they need to do this. The movie doesn't explain how often the marriages need to happen, but basically you find out that Millie Bobby Brown is actually the second thrown down there. The first one she saw earlier in like another part of the castle, and that girl got roasted and killed by the dragon. And
Not
so
eaten though, which I thought the dragon, because I'm sorry to break in, because at some point somebody says, and so the 3 daughters died in the belly of the beast. I was like, oh, gross. What a horrible way to die.
Well, there was like bone crunching or something on one part that also, I agree, made it seem like the dragon was maybe eating them. But the rest of the movie is like her in the mountain trying to escape the dragon, and just trying to get away from the dragon until later on when she finds out that the kingdom, the people of the kingdom have been telling a lie. Basically, they were the ones that killed the dragon's 3 babies, and that's why the dragon wants this sacrifice.
Which I have to say, okay, dragon.
I'm here for the dragon.
I'm here for the dragon too. So and so she has to explain to the dragon like, hey, I'm not actually part of their bloodline. They cut my hand, and I have some of their blood. Although I don't know why the dragon would not, after all the time that she's bleeding, why wouldn't the dragon smell her blood and then go, wait a minute, this isn't right? Because I don't think one small amount of blood on the hand would actually. Anyway, we're
I smell
overthinking
2
things.
sets of DNA.
Yeah. Overthinking things, not really, but we'll come back to that. But anyway, so the rest of the movie is her like getting away from the dragon, and then eventually they take her sister, who she's very close with, throw her in the pit when they realize that she's escaped, and then so she has to save her sister, team up with the dragon, and get revenge on the kingdom. That's, I think, the rest of the important plot points. Oh, her dad comes to rescue her, and he dies.
Right.
I know. I thought you'd like that Ray Winston dies, Dave.
I wish he died sooner. Wish he died in the first 30 seconds.
Didn't die soon enough for Dave.
Too bad.
I mean, I thought to myself when I didn't know he was in it, and then I saw him walk on screen, which was when I texted the 2 of you. And I was like, oh, fuck me. But then I realized, okay, it's a supporting part. He's probably not going to be in it much, and he's not. So I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, and he is the worst fucking actor alive. I swear to God, he's so awful. He cannot deliver anything with any sincerity or weight. Oh my God. Fuck me. He is so awful. I cannot believe that this man has had a career. I cannot believe it. I just really popped the mic twice. I'm sorry. That's how flustered I am. And I even have a fucking screen guard on it too. Yeah. Well, Evan, why don't you talk about it? Because you didn't talk about American Dreamer, so lay some Damsel on us.
Oh, okay. I mean, I was starting to roll the eyes in the beginning of the movie with this voiceover and this like, come on, this is the kind of movie we're gonna get here. And so I thought it was gonna be really chintzy, and I thought I was gonna hate it all, but I actually enjoyed this movie when it got into the thick of she's in the cave trying to avoid the dragon, and she has to do all these crazy things to outwit the dragon and survive the caves, from like, when she's got to, peel apart her dress and use parts of it. She's got like a knife in there that she sharpens and uses to help like climb up this wall, and she uses a part of her dress and takes these glowworms and makes like a lantern out of them. I was actually really enjoying all of that stuff. And I really like how it came together with her teaming up with the dragon. Although I felt bad for the dragon this is, Dave, you were talking about the Three's Company dilemma. Talk about a movie that could have been much shorter, but for a conversation. A reasonable conversation, by the way, because the dragon's like stalking her and toying with her the entire time. But she comes out with a super aggressive stance where she's like pointing a sword right in the dragon's face. Like, you could just say, hey, let's pause for a second. Let's have a conversation. Let me explain to you that you don't need to kill me. I'm not part of their bloodline. They've tricked you. Let's team up. Instead, no, I'm going to stab you a bunch of times. I'm going to stab you in the eyeball, and I'm going to make you like shoot fire at yourself and roast yourself before we can even get to that conversation.
Wait a minute. I have to disagree with you on that, because she does try to have a conversation and the dragon wants no part of it. So she does try to have that conversation.
No, but she comes straight at an aggressive stance with the dragon, where I feel like if she actually like said, okay, let's have the conversation first, any of the points in the movie where she's like either like hiding and the dragon can't find her, or when she just shows up versus like immediately pointing a sword in the dragon's face, I feel like they could have had that conversation sooner. But it's fine, because the dragon ends up fine. She heals it with all the glowworms. I don't know how it repairs the damage to its eyeballs. I didn't think there would be enough glowworms to like rebuild its eyes. But it's fine. The dragon finds out the truth, and they team up, and they, roast everybody in the kingdom, and they run off together back to the other kingdom, and they've got a cool dragon friend now.
Yeah, and since the kingdom they're in is like always, it's like perpetually winter, it seems like, or it's like winter 8 months of the year. It seems like it's winter a lot.
It does,
wherever
yeah.
they're from.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the dragon's going to go there and like get some alternate heating source going on for them.
Could be.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what I thought
have a real
too, Dave.
mutually beneficial relationship with this dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I liked how it came together. There were definitely, I feel like there were some weaknesses in the story and the writing, but I like Millie Bobby Brown. It's not her most charismatic performance. Like, this is definitely not Enola Holmes, which I feel like she just is really great at and really fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
This is not quite to that level, but I like her in it. I like her in this movie. I enjoyed it. I like the survival aspects, the climbing around in the cave, especially when she's got to like take that crown that she finds and scale that really creepy, scary wall of sharp crystals.
That's a great
I thought
scene.
that part was
a
a great scene. So I think there's some good stuff here, even if it didn't all quite come together for me, but I feel like it came together effectively enough by the end that I'm like, okay, there was some corniness here. There was not off to a strong start. There was some eye rolling in the beginning because I really thought this was going to be like, oh, we saw that movie, The Princess, a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Like, is it just going to be that? No, it's not that. It actually is more interesting with its survival aspects and the teaming up with the dragon. That it's not just like a straight, oh, there's a princess who fights, which is what I thought based on the title.
I loved The Princess. What the fuck, man?
The Princess is
great. I did too. I loved it. But I thought, like, is this just going to be a knockoff
Right.
of that movie?
Right.
It's not. It's a different movie, which is good. That's a good thing.
No, but it did
Right.
make me want to rewatch that because
It did,
it reminded
yes.
me of that. And I'm like, damn, that movie was so good.
Mm. But yeah, Megan, what did you think since Dave went for talking about
Sorry,
American Dreamer?
I talked about Ray Winstone.
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I don't think Millie Bobby Brown is the right actor for this role.
Right.
Not because she's
Okay.
not good, because but I agree with you. I think she's fantastic in Enola Holmes. I think she's very good with that kind of snappy banter. I think she's great, obviously, in Stranger Things too. I think in a survival adventure action-y type movie, though, I think you need someone, in my opinion, who's kind of better at facial expressions, who's good in silence. And I just don't think that's her strength. But having said that, I think she's fine. Like I think she's doing a good job here. I just don't think this is where she shines. But yeah, I really liked a lot of at first it was funny. I was rolling my eyes not at the not at the really bad voiceover, although I totally understand why you both were. I was rolling my eyes when we hear for maybe the fourth or fifth time how clever she is, but we've yet to see an ounce of cleverness.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, why are we resting so much on the exposition? Can I see how she's clever? And then finally, as it unfolds, we do. Because like with the knife, the climbing, the crown, using that to climb, and the glowworms. I also like, side note, I like how the first glowworm, she's like, I'm not going to hurt you. And I thought that was like kind of sweet, like how she's using them, but also like she's trying to be gentle with them to use as a lantern. But yeah, I liked those moments of cleverness. I do like that she she cuts her hair. And at first I'm like, why the fuck is she cutting her hair? There's no time for this. But then I'm like, oh, she's actually using her hair as a tool. That makes sense. I will say though, the way her dress comes by the end, it made me think of Padme Amidala in like Attack of the Clones, where her top has conveniently become a crop top and her sleeve is conveniently cut off to show off kind of a sexy outfit. So it kind of reminded me of that and made me chuckle, but it is actually used for certain utilitarian purposes so she can get out of this cave. I also think it's interesting that she gets out of the cave and then goes back in, to get her sister. I'm like, God damn it, she just got out. Now she's got to go back in like all the way through
but
again.
At least she knows
it's
her
like
way around this time.
Exactly. And I liked how all the other previous sacrifices, they like wrote their names and they drew maps and like they, so she could use all of their knowledge to help herself get out. Like I thought that was really good. I liked that. So yeah, much like you, I think it starts off rocky, but then it gets better as it goes along. I will say there's some disturbing imagery, which I was not prepared for.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
which one in particular?
Well, there's three.
Three.
They might, thank you. I wonder if it's probably the same three.
Gotta be the same
it's
ones.
all the same three.
Yeah. It's when the guys get burnt in the very beginning. I was surprised at I was like, whoa, this is a little more gory and intense than I was expecting. And then it's when the birds are on fire flying and it was really beautiful, but also like fucking horrifying.
Yep.
And I'm like, Jesus, this is intense. And then when Robin Wright's crown is melting on her head and I'm like, oh, that reminds me of the ending of The Menu. That's really disturbing.
Oh, yeah.
Was there another scene that you guys were thinking of? Oh, what's the other one?
The squish.
The squish?
When when the dragon squishes that knight who comes in with Ray Winstone, she just stomps, and you see his entire body explode under her
there is that.
foot.
That didn't bother me.
I actually had two more.
Oh,
one when the king and his people kill the dragon babies.
Yes, that was awful.
And two, when the
awful.
Horse gets roasted by the dragon while it's running away. I was like, there were the birds, the horse, and the dragon babies like instantly added this movie to my letterbox list of movies my mother-in-law cannot watch because there is animal death in it.
I will say
added to that list.
To be fair to the movie that you don't see it. So I will say it's not as horrifying. Like it's awful, like in a mental image, but you don't see the horrific deaths on screen, I will say. So take that with a grain of salt. People who also don't
remember the horse being swallowed by the fire. Like you see it running toward the camera.
You do, but you don't see the horse like go like, I'm on fire.
Right. And you don't see like the body melting, and you don't see a body squishing. You don't see the the metal dripping down
Mhm.
like the way you do. And but I
Right.
mean, I'm quibbling here, but I'm just saying, like,
No.
if you are someone, because I'm just saying, like, that's why those did not immediately come to mind, just because you don't see like the horror. But no, you're absolutely right. But especially the dragon babies ones, the way they like hold their knives up and they're like
Yeah.
stabbing like in a fucking
Yeah.
slasher horror movie. It was horrible.
It
Yeah.
was
I'm with you on
horrible.
that. It was
Yeah.
awful. It was really gross. Like,
Mhm.
yeah. But yeah. So those are basically kind of all my random thoughts about the movie. I don't think this is necessarily the best well-made movie in a sense. Like, I don't know if I'd say this is a good movie, but it's enjoyable. It's entertaining. I like
Mhm.
I like her cleverness. I like how she's not going to leave Floria, her sister, and she's going to go back for her. Also, something I really, really liked about this, I was prepared for the stereotypical, stepmother trope where Angela Bassett is a
Yes.
horrible asshole. And no, she loves her stepdaughters and she's a great stepmom. And I was like, okay, I'm here for this reversal of the trope. So it was really nice to see not an evil
Yeah.
stepmother.
Yeah, I
Yes,
was
I
really
agree.
pleased that she tries to save
Yes.
Elodie even before she goes in the cave. She's like, you got to rethink
Yeah.
this.
I know. She's like, don't marry this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not family. Let's go.
I get bad vibes from Queen Robin Wright.
Yeah. I know. Robin Wright is always great as a villain. I love Robin Wright.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So great as a
She
villain.
is really good as a villain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I fall a little lower than the two of you on how this goes. I mean, that opening voiceover is fucking poisonous, but at least there's an antidote.
Agreed.
I'm going to pat myself on the back for saying Damsel 57, because not unlike Passenger 57, where they get on and off the plane a billion times, she gets out of the cave, she goes back in the cave. She gets out of the cave, she goes back in the cave.
I missed that. I'm sad I missed that. You said that
Yeah.
the first time.
Yeah, I think Millie Bobby Brown is not the right choice for this also. I think that, now I wouldn't have said that Joey King was right for the princess, but then she kicks
That's
that
true.
movie's ass,
Yes.
That's also true.
Whereas I think that Millie Bobby Brown's just not, she's got like the, they say, you were talking about how they mentioned that she's clever, which I agree with you. Like, don't fucking tell me she's clever. Just show her doing smart
Right.
stuff in the cave,
Right.
which they eventually do. And I think that when it comes to that stuff, she's good. When she's doing the more like, I got a sword and I'm going to stab you. It's like, are you really Millie Bobby Brown? I don't know. And every time I look at her now, ever since somebody mentioned this to me, and I don't know where I saw it, but all I can see now is Elizabeth Perkins in Big every time I look at Millie Bobby Brown. So,
Oh, wow.
now I've done it to you.
You've done it to me too.
I figure you guys probably already knew that. I guess not.
No, I've never heard that.
So there's that. I really liked the dragon's performance. I can
It's
never
Shohreh
pronounce.
Aghdashloo. I
Yes.
love her.
So great.
Yeah.
So great.
She's fantastic actor. I love her.
I won't retread the ground that you two both went over, but how did Millie Bobby Brown know about the dragon babies? Did she like have a vision of that when she came upon their corpses? Like, nobody told her about that.
Oh, it was when the dragon said, three were taken from me.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's
so
how she
3 must
figured
be
it out.
paid. She's like, 3 were taken from me, so 3 must be paid.
Got it. Okay. I also like, this is an nice touch. The dragon is not a treasure hoarder.
No.
I don't know if you both noticed that. The
Mhm.
dragon's
I
just
did.
like chilling out in the cave.
Yep.
Which I thought was really smart. They're going out of their way to be like, this dragon's not evil. This dragon is just broken, has a broken heart.
Yes.
You know?
She's a vengeful mama.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now, as much as I liked seeing Robin Wright's crown melt down her face, I do have to say it made me feel a little weird that the big takeaway from this movie is revenge is fucking awesome and these people get what they deserve. You know? Like,
Mhm.
I like to see a bad guy I like to see Hans Gruber fall off the side of Nakatomi Plaza. But this just seems a little sadistic. Don't you
Yeah.
think?
Yes. Yeah, I do. I agree with you.
And that's not even me being like, I have kids now, so I have more emotions. It's just like, it was just kind of gross.
Well,
you know?
To Megan's point earlier, this movie, and I kind of respect that it's like this, it doesn't pull its punches with any of the violence. It really just kind of
No.
leans into being a violent fucking movie. Even though it's not the most like gory, it really leans into its
Yeah.
violent choices. It doesn't shy away from that. So when she's walking through the arch of the castle and it's just burning to the fucking ground, I was like, well, that's a choice. That is a choice right there. And it may be an aggressive choice, but I'm kind of on board with it because it's just it was just making aggressive choices like that the entire time.
Yeah, it was. And I will say she does say, "Hey, anyone who wants to, ditch these people, leave now."
I know, taking their clue from Clint Eastwood and Unforgiven there. So, anybody who don't want to get killed better head on out the back.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, no, I know. I think you're both right. Like it does. I think it feels particularly sadistic. I feel like kind of now, like where we've had, I don't want to say a re-examination, but kind of looking at movies that are kind of meta, like they're revenge movies or kind of meta commentaries on, is vengeance actually a positive? Does it actually do anything? No, it usually doesn't. But you're also right, Evan. This movie is just glorifying, reveling in its aggressive choices, which I don't know, I kind of respect in a way.
Same, I think that's another way it kind of worked for me, that it was like, okay, we're going to be a movie that's like about a princess that's fighting against this evil queen and her son and this dragon, and we're just gonna make it violent, but not like over the top violence. It's not like we were talking about The Princess as a counterpoint to that, where it's like this over the top actiony violence with like martial arts and stuff. No, it's just gonna be like straight violence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which in a way makes it more disturbing.
Yes.
Right. Oh, for sure.
It does.
Yeah, the less stylized, the more straightforward. There's this, I don't know if you've ever seen it, either of you. There's this Denzel Washington movie. I think it's called Safe House. Came out about 10, 15 years ago.
I've seen that.
That is, for a movie that is not advertised that way, it is one of the most violent fucking movies I've ever seen, because it just has men beating the shit out of each other.
Okay,
it's like that movie is almost all fists and knives.
Yep.
So it's like, it's insane.
Yeah. The movie has one of my favorite car scenes in a movie, because there's that. I think it's Ryan. Was it Ryan Reynolds was in that with Denzel Washington? Ryan Reynolds and Denzel Washington, if I'm remembering this correctly, are driving in a car and they are having a fist fight in the car while one of them is driving the car, and it is very intense. Yeah.
Well, and then there's the scene where Ryan Reynolds kills Joel Kinnaman. It's just like, my God.
That's also a pretty brutal scene.
Okay, well, I'm going to be firing this movie up this week.
You definitely need to see it.
Definitely,
I need to,
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so, I mean, this is fine. This is one of those movies that I would never go out of my way to watch, which is most things on Netflix. But now that I've seen it, it was, I had the same reservations that you did, Evan, at the beginning with like we said, the boys, Ray Winstone. And, but once it got into the meat, the survival stuff, that was all really well done.
Yeah.
So, and the dragon carried a lot, like her performance carried a lot of that movie.
Yes.
I
think the creature design was good too. Like
the dragon looks good.
Yeah,
it
was
cool.
Yep.
Yeah, it was like really, really cool design and creepy, but also like weirdly beautiful and creepy at the same time.
Yeah.
When the fire came up her throat, it was so
that
cool.
was stunning. Yeah, I love that touch. I'd never seen that before. Love that.
I also liked that the flames that the dragon breathed were almost kind of, they didn't look like lava, but they kind of acted like lava. Like the fire dripped and it had weight to it, or mass, I should say.
Yes.
So, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, really good design. I agree with both of you. Yeah, it looked really stunning. Yeah, that's the thing. I think, and I just said before, like a little bit ago, I don't know if this is a good movie, but there are a lot of good elements here. And I think that's what elevates it perhaps from something that's not a good movie or just kind of, middling. Right. But it made me want to rewatch The Princess. And also, I've mentioned this book before. It's an adorable children's book. It made me want to reread The Paper Bag Princess, because it's kind of a similar premise.
No, I don't know that one.
Yeah,
it's about a princess who a dragon kidnaps a prince who a princess is engaged to, and she's got to go rescue the prince. and she's only got a paper bag that she has to wear because the dragon has burned all her clothes. And when she rescues the prince, he's pissed off that she looks ugly. And so she basically sends him packing and she goes off on other adventures. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Paper
I like that.
bag
Yeah.
princess?
The paper
B-A-G?
bag. Yep.
I thought you said paperback princess. And I was like,
Oh,
she
no.
reads a lot. Okay.
She threw books at the dragon.
Yeah,
hit her
right.
head.
And the dragon's like, I'm illiterate. No. So
Books, my only weakness.
it's her kryptonite.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a cute little children's book. It's really sweet.
knowledge is the dragon's weakness.
And-
Yeah.
but yeah, so it reminded me of that too.
Well, that sounds good. I'll
Yeah.
track that one down.
Yeah. It's cute.
All right. Well, was there anything else we want to talk about Damsel?
No, I don't think so. Not for me. Other than who would you recast Ray Winstone as? Who would?
Hold on.
You
go,
know what I was
Evan.
thinking? This is a crazy
I don't
thought.
know.
But if he were still with us, I would say David Bowie
Oh, interesting.
because
choice.
he's much more likable than fucking Ray Winstone.
Well,
and
for
so
you,
for somebody
everybody is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, if
Seriously.
you
I
just
would've-
take his charisma and have him sell out his daughter, and then him go back with regret,
Yeah,
I think that would be cool.
I would have said Sean Bean.
Ooh.
Yeah, but then he would have died, and then it would have
He
been another
always
movie with Sean
dies.
Bean.
I
But he
know.
died. Yeah, but he died, so it would have worked. It would have fulfilled the
Exactly.
Sean Bean prophecy.
That's right.
I saw something where he didn't die. I don't remember what it is, but
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, it's always funny when that happens.
I
God,
know.
who would I cast?
Yeah,
to be
who would you?
Sean Bean's a great choice.
thank
He
you.
really is.
Thank you.
Yeah. Shit. Who would I
Hmm.
pick?
All I can think of now is him getting his head lopped off in Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
which I haven't even seen the show. I've seen that scene,
but
though.
you know that scene. I know it's
Yeah.
such an iconic scene.
Well, just because everybody I know is like, I thought he was going to be the main character.
Yeah,
you know, so,
yeah. If you hadn't read the books, which I hadn't at that point, it was fucking shocking.
yeah.
Wait, because the main character is always safe. There's always plot armor, and nope. Back when the show was good. Actually, it was good for a long time. But anyway, I digress.
So Damsel.
Yeah, so Damsel. Have you thought about who you'd recast, Evan?
Oh, I'm still drawing a blank. Really, I'm like, who would I cast? Like, I feel like anyone I'm thinking of is like too far in like one direction or the other. I'm like, is it like too comedic, too serious? I really
Clive
don't-
Owen.
Clive Owen would be great.
Ooh,
That's a great pick too.
Yeah. Clive Owen would be good.
Yeah.
The other thing about Ray Winstone, and this is not about his performance, his natural accent is just way too street, let's say, to be the king of a land.
I mean, weirdly, I think that could. Well, I mean, so there's that whole bit about how Robin Wright is like looking down on
Yes.
Angela Bassett's queen because she was a commoner or whatever. I don't know.
But she speaks
Maybe
rather regally.
maybe that could work.
But I know what you're saying, Evan. I kind of got that vibe too. Like, oh, he's a scrappy king. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't
That's
know.
actually his nickname, the Scrappy King.
Yeah,
Ray
So-
the Scrappy.
exactly. So it kind of worked for me that he was like kind of, rough and his rough accent. Rough, quote unquote.
Yeah. I feel like so one of the people that's coming to mind is Michael Keaton, and I don't think that's a good choice for this role, but
Oh,
I just like Michael
interesting.
Keaton in things, and I feel like he can bring a weird energy to certain movies where he shows up and you're like, I wouldn't picture Michael Keaton in this, but somehow he's convincing me.
Yeah.
He's always good.
That's what I thought of when I saw Spotlight. I'm like, he's not the fucking editor of the Boston Globe. And then I was like, no, he is.
Yeah.
You know?
He's
Yeah.
so good. I think he's the best part of that movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah.
This
Well,
is fun
maybe
recasting.
we'll-
We should recast
we'll-
more things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think about it. We'll talk about it next week.
Yeah. Okay. I'll sleep on it tonight. I'll think of who would I recast. Ray Winstone.
Danny Houston.
Mm-mm-mm.
No?
Not for me.
A little
It's a
too
no.
evil, maybe?
It's a no for me, dog.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, too
veering
evil.
on too evil for me.
Yeah.
Stellan Skarsgård. Too evil?
Oh.
Maybe.
No.
I can maybe see Stellan Skarsgård.
Oh, wait. I was thinking of the wrong. I was thinking.
You're thinking
You're
of
thinking
one
of the
his
Alexander Skarsgård?
18 children?
Yeah. Are you
Bill
talking about Stellan Skarsgård or
No, was it
Alexander
Skarsgård? I'm
yeah,
sorry.
it's Skarsgård. That's what I was like, because I was thinking of Alexander Skarsgård. There's too many Skarsgårds.
Yeah.
Yes. No, Stellan would work. No, but I don't think he's nice enough. Yeah, see, he doesn't work for me. He's too evil too.
Mm.
Okay. Ooh. Well, as long as we're on Skarsgård, Peter Sarsgaard as the father, I think he could pull it off.
You think? Interesting.
I think so.
I think he could actually.
Yeah, I think
because he's got that weird like malevolence, but oh no, I'm actually a nice guy.
Yes, I think that's where I'm landing with it.
All right.
Success.
Huzzah!
No homework for me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess let's bring it in for a landing for this episode. So, American Dreamer. It sounds like Megan, you're definitely a no on that.
Oh my God, that's
Dave,
correct. No for me.
Would you recommend it?
I don't think I could recommend it, but I would also say, if you're looking at your streaming stuff and you see Peter Dinklage, you're like, oh, I like him. Okay. But I wouldn't say like definitely run out and see it.
Okay. So it sounds like it's closer to your mileage may vary kind of movie.
Absolutely.
Okay. And where do we land on Damsel?
Sure.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling. Like we've discussed, it starts out a little rocky, but I think it ends up coming together in a way that it was much more enjoyable and surprising to me than I expected. So I think there's definitely a lot worse ways you can spend your time than watching this movie. I know it sounds like a ringing endorsement, doesn't it? But I actually enjoyed it. I had fun. So you know what? I'm gonna actually say I would recommend it. So how about that?
Okay. Nice.
All right. Well, that does it for this week's episode of Spoiler Piece Theater. We want to say a huge thank you to our editor, Otto Clamor. Otto, thank you for making us sound great week after week.
Thanks so much, Otto.
You can find the show anywhere you get podcasts, but you can also find us at our website, which is spoilerpiece.com. You can also find our merch there. We have a tab in the navigation for merch. You take you to our TeePublic store. You can support the show by getting any number of things with our logo on it. T-shirts, mugs, pillows, notebooks, all that good stuff. I'm partial to the baseball tee that has the Spoiler Piece logo on it. And you can follow us on social media. We're Spoiler Piece Theater on Facebook. We're at Spoiler Piece on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and I guess we're on Threads now. Maybe at some point we'll be on Blue Sky. Who knows? There's too many things to keep up with. Yeah. Too many. I know it's such an old man complaint, but there's just too many. Back in my day, there were 2 social medias. So you can follow us there, or you can just reach out to us. Send us an email. We're spoilerpiece@gmail.com, or you can give us a call
at 862-21-PEACE.
And that's peace like a piece of pie. I wonder if how many people actually dial 86221-PEACE like PEACE. Hopefully none.
Hopefully none. But I've often thought about it. Like I thought about that too, and I'm like, well, we're Spoiler Piece, so I figured they'd do peace like Spoiler Piece. But
yeah, you think so. But if you've been calling that number and leaving messages, maybe you should call the right number and leave us a message. Just poor person whose number that is that's getting all of our messages. Well, if you like the show, please rate and review us by going to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece. And that will take you to your platform of choice, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Your ratings and reviews are immensely helpful to us. They give us cred out there in the podcast world. And And if you really, really like the show, please consider joining our Patreon. As I mentioned at the top of this episode, we had a conversation this week about the 1954 film Godzilla in honor of its 70th anniversary this year. And we had a really fun chat about the movie. So for $5 and up, you can get access to our exclusive audio each week. For our patrons, you can vote in monthly polls. And then also like to say a huge thank you to our sponsor piece patron, Heather Sachs. Heather, thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're the best. All right. My name is Evan Crean. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living. You can follow me on social media as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
My name is Megan Kearns. I write for Edge Media Network. I'm also a co-host of the Slashers podcast. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and a member of Gallica. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at OpinionS World or on Instagram and Letterboxd at The OpinionS.
And I'm Dave Riedel. I write for the Chicago Reader. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and you can follow me anywhere as Dave Sees Movies. Any social media site as Dave Sees Movies.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.